Yeah, a little bit. I think yesterday was a tough day for everybody. As the news kept coming in, and I was starting to make my phone calls. It probably hit me more yesterday and a little bit this morning when I got up and realized that I was going to have to say some goodbyes and not see some players that I've gotten used to seeing. So it's too bad. It's part of the game. We put ourselves in this position. We got to be front facing. We got to own it. We got to understand why it happened, and we got to get better.
All those calls like.
Yeah, I talked to Gino first, and just wanted to compliment him on what he brought to this team, the professionalism, the consistency over the past year. And just riding it out those early months of joining us and becoming the person and player that he was. I find great satisfaction in knowing all players are going to step into an environment that everybody wants, and it's a playoff environment where there's good coaches and good players that are waiting for them. Next in the line was Merrill, and then finally Shelby. So Merrill was probably the most difficult conversation I had personally. To say goodbye to somebody that you've known for as long as I have. Know Merrill, the deep dives, the personal connection that I've always felt with him because of the person he is. It's hard to say goodbye to that. So we'll wish them all well and keep pushing forward.
So talking to Zach, how do you handle him in this particular moment?
Yeah, just having a little one-off with Zach. I wanted to call him in and just talk shop with him and just see how he was doing. And he handled it all well, as good as you possibly could think. He's 1/4 of the rotation that's left here that we feel very good about. And I wanted to call him in just to talk about where he's at emotionally, and he seems to be in a very good spot. He's ready to go out and compete as he always is.
So it's about the message you gave your team.
Yeah, it was mostly Mike wanted to get the guys together, and he talked about being accountable to what's going on. I think Mike addressed the team, and you can ask him if he wants to comment on it. He'll be able to, but he wanted to get the group together just to make sure that, as he always does, he wanted to be honest with them and just let them know what he was thinking through this whole process.
Watch your team play the rest of the way. What is it that you want to see?
I want to see D-back baseball. I want to see the prep each day. I want to see the coaches coach. I don't want to take anything for granted. I want to win baseball games. That's the bottom line. Are we going to win every one of them? No, it's impossible. But I feel like if we go out and play our game, do what we do, control the climate of what's happening each and every day, that we're going to be okay. I don't want to put any day ahead of one another. I want to take care of what we can, and that's to control this day.
How important are these games to every single person in uniform in there who gets a paycheck?
Yeah, very. I think that's one thing that Mike explained to the group. Like, everybody's being evaluated. Me, the coaches, the players, and that's the space we should all live in. Because you can't take anything for granted in this game. You're being evaluated no matter where you are, no matter what you think of your game or your abilities as a coach. And I think these guys got to understand they're going to get a chance, and that's all anybody wants. And you got to make the most of this opportunity.
What do you feel like happened?
I feel like there's been a little bit of a distraction. The social media aspect of it is something we couldn't run from. Everywhere we look, every phone that was being viewed, you could see that teams were trying to poach our players. We get the players, and we just couldn't seem to get away from that. And we lost a little bit of focus. The 3 days in Detroit were tough. That is not who we are. And we tried different methods to help understand who they are as a team, and we couldn't get over that hump. So hopefully today's another day.
Can you just speak to how I don't want to use the word wild, but how unusual the human element of the entire trade deadline was with leaving Detroit, coming to a city that your team has never played in, having players that were unfortunately traded from your team beat up with the team that they got traded to in Sacramento before they left, and then you have other players that have to leave Sacramento on a day off.
Yeah, a lot of plane hopping, a lot of unusual circumstances for sure. I think we all knew that day off there could be some things were going to get triggered, so I think everybody's bracing for it. But it's still very unusual. There's a real human emotion to the trade deadline. Players, they're not robotic. They have the same feelings that you and I have, and they're not immune to that. So, once you get here, it just seemed like Sacramento was a hub. People were moving off in different directions. I know Merrill was still at the hotel today. with his wife, so they're still migrating to where they need to get to. It was a very unusual day for us for sure yesterday.
Torey, kind of this follow up. Now the trade deadline's gone. You yourself have a feeling you get the sense of clubhouse that it's cool, it's over. We turn the page and now focus on basket.
I like to think so. I like to think this group understands what their job is, and the young players that probably weren't impacted by it, it doesn't make a difference to them. They're young, trying to make their way. They're not the ones necessarily that we're talking about, but there's some names in there that were probably curious about the movement and became a little bit of a distraction. So I feel like the day that's come and gone yesterday, as difficult as it was, you turn the calendar month and you're ready to play because it's August 1st. Also, is a day that there's no more worries about team moving players. The brotherhood that's formed in there is going to stay here for the next 60 days.
For those young players that weren't affected by it, isn't it good that they can at least be witness to the realness of it?
Yeah, I wrote down some notes about some of the things that I was hearing and seeing from a young player standpoint. I'll remind them one day. I'll pull it out in a couple of years when they're going to be at that next level of player, not so young anymore, and reminding them of some of the things that they were talking about openly. And I don't mind that. I don't mind the fact that they're seeing things and they're real conversations. Anytime somebody can talk about where they're at emotionally and express it, I want to take inventory of it. I'll remind them of that for sure.
You hope that some of these young guys now start to emerge on the absence of some pretty big players and personnel.
Yeah, I think there's some young players that aren't young anymore. That's the Corbin Carroll group, I would say, and Gabriel Moreno group. And then there's the next layer of player, Del Castillo, the Alexander. Those guys need to figure this out. They need to go out there and say that I'm young, but I'm going to learn, and we have really good teachers. We have great coaches. Players teach other players. So I think it's a very healthy environment to push this thing in the right direction as soon as possible. Haven took some dry swings, Gabby took dry swings and was doing some more hand strengthening catching activities. And so he initiated some stuff with his right hand. Haven is tee, flips, cage work, ground balls, and light running. So he's progressing really nicely. I wasn't told that was going to be the end here in the next couple of days. So I think the fact that he's in the cage and swinging with 2 hands aggressively, that's a very good sign. I know the progression is probably 4 or 5 days from now when he starts to see it on baseball.
Anything else?
Thompson's out to 105 feet and Mena 75 feet. So those are the 4 guys. Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.